be successful in this ecosystem, obviously, you have to be the kind of person, the kind of company who can quickly and effectively adapt. And our next keynote speaker is going to be speaking to us about precisely this, what it takes to adapt successfully in a new EV ecosystem. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a warm welcome for the Managing Director of Blink, Miko de Haan.
Hi, is this working? Yeah. Hi everybody, thanks for sticking around. My name is Miko de Haan. I'm the Managing Director of Blink Europe. For the people that don't know, Blink is an owner-operator and a CPO and is listed, and is one of the few players that is fully vertically integrated and really is taking a first stab at doing this on a global level. So I started out, maybe as a bit of a background, I started out at a company called New Motion 12 years ago, or actually the New Motion. And my first responsibility was to build the first commercial, or one of the first commercial fast charge networks in Europe. That was quite a daunting task at that time. It was 2010, especially because we had zero money. So we had to beg, steal, and borrow everything. But it was a fun time. There weren't any standardizations. So CCS was not even there yet. After that, I spent a lot of time here in Berlin. So I'm really happy to be here again. I love the city. And set up the Berlin office together with some other colleagues. And we really believed that with 4 people we could dominate the German market. How naive we were. And then I left the space for a while, and only to realize after 5 years that was not the best decision. And come back into the space, because it's incredible what you can do in this space. And I realized that if you really want to change something, then this is a unique space to be in. You can actually change the world with what we're doing and stop climate change, and that's really where I'm interested in. The only constant from then and returning in, say, 2020 is that everything changes a lot, and the adoption or the method that you have to adapt to the market is sort of a constant. At that time, when I left, we were just talking to customers and trying to entice them to go into to buy an electric car. And if you take a look at what we have to do now, we still have the same goal, but at the same time, really have to educate and ensure that we protect the movement while people are coming into this space, our customers and our partners, and especially with all the external factors that are going on right now with the supply chain shortages and increasing energy prices. What's very different from 10 years ago or 12 years ago is that we now see governments coming in and really supporting the movement. This was certainly not the case when I started out, and we have this amazing opportunity as people in the space, so everybody here, to help governments and to reach their goals. And some goals are set very far, in the future, and other ones are already pretty close. I love the the idea of that in 2030 it's impossible to export cars to the UK if they don't have a plug, or the Flemish government in Belgium saying by 2026. All electric cars all cars have to be electric that are sort of company cars. That results already in a massive push right now. So if we talk to our partners, which we work a lot with, like leasing companies, they already see 60% of the new cars being delivered or ordered having a plug, and 25%, I believe, are full EVs of that. So that's amazing. It's countries. It's the automakers that are doing a massive job. A big shout out, I would say, to all the automakers and the OEMs. They basically pivoted an 80-year-old business model to something new, and they're going to spend, I think, 44 billion over the coming years in new EV platforms. It's the traditional car makers, but also the new car makers that are coming in that are working on a more sustainable future, but at the same time also making a car way cooler than it was before, right? With technology and everything you can think about. That's what I really love about that movement, that it's not only about getting rid of the internal combustion engine, but that it's also how do you improve it in many other ways to make it a more pleasurable experience. It's businesses, they do the same. It's not only businesses like, hey, here is, we provide our employees with an electric car. No, it's companies like FedEx that have transportation at the core of what they're doing, and they are making that shift. So I think that's really interesting. That being said, these groups give us guidance, and they, it's very interesting what they do. And at the same time, we still have a long road ahead. Because at Blink, we take a sort of a global approach, and we get global questions of all levels. And you don't want to know how many times we get this question on can you drive a car in the rain? 10 years ago, I wouldn't expect that would be still the case, that people have these questions. Or through generally, it's something with water. So I don't know, car wash, always big questions. So, being here, I learned a lot again from all the other speakers, and there's a lot of numbers out there, and there's a lot of people saying, we need so much chargers, and et cetera, et cetera. I think if you take a look at those ambitions that the car makers, the OEMs, the countries, the governments, and also the commercial companies put out there, the consensus is there that we have a huge task in front of us, and we never could do such a thing alone. We are expecting to have to at least install, say, 8 million chargers by 2020, and it took us around 10 years to install what we have now, which is, I believe, somewhere around 2.8 million chargers. So a very daunting task. And a big communal challenge in front of us. When we were dealing with customers, say, when I left the industry, it was very much about we were talking to tech-savvy tree huggers, basically, that could choose from. That had the great choice of you can either get a Nissan Leaf, a Model S, or an Opel Ampera, and we have one charger, and it's AC, and there are some DCs. And now we're totally in a different market where not only employees drive electric cars, but core business companies use electric cars. There's a massive audience that we're talking to, and that's such a different proposition than many years ago. If you then have convinced these people at this moment in time that they should go electric, or have that company convinced that they should go electric, then you're facing things like the component crisis, or you can't even order an electric car if you want to at this moment in time. So a lot of challenges. We went from something pretty simple, where we said, hey, it's just a charger that needs to be installed, here's a car, to we have to take people through the whole value chain and explain to them that just having a charger is not enough, because it will generally create a bigger problem than you're having right now. So Blink is from that perspective, I think, interesting. We take a global approach. In Europe, we like to think sort of we're the adults. In North America, maybe the pesky adolescent, and in Latin America and APAC, we're maybe more toddlers. But if you take a very close look at these regions, they're, especially in Latin America and in the APAC region, it's very diverse and divided. We have countries like Chile being extremely ambitious in their plans, and we're trying to help their governments with, say, the adoption of electric buses, which they really focus on a lot. There were some other super interesting speakers before me, and they talked about Latin America also a lot, and one of the things that we see there as a big challenge is still that it feels like there's not a decision being made on the regulatory standards. So is it a type 2 or a type 1 plug that they will be going forward? In APAC, we see a big difference between, say, China and Korea, which are already very much advanced, and other countries in the regions have been focusing more on the transition of two-wheelers and three-wheelers to electrification, and haven't really started yet on electric cars. North America, there is a form of standardization there. I think that's clear. They chose one. But there we have big issues with the reliability of charging sessions. Other than Europe, US doesn't really have an energy production problem, but it does have an energy transportation problem. So brownouts, blackouts, things like that. One of the wonderful things now, what everybody knows, is that there's an historic bipartisan infrastructure bill. And there, I think part of the problem can be fixed because of the massive influx of private and public money going into, say, the basics that are needed. 5 billion goes to highway and corridor charging, so a lot of DC, and then the rest goes to is available for communities. In Europe, this whole event is very European focused, so I don't want to talk about that too much because everybody, I guess, understands what's going on here. But I feel that our major challenge here is to implement smart charging as fast as possible because of all the energy complexities that we will see going forward. Just to touch upon, at Blink, I think we're super obsessed by finding solutions to the issues. So one of the solutions of say, the poor charging experience in many countries is our partnerships with roaming, with Hubject, the deployment of hardware. To the life of me, I don't understand some locations that you see, especially here in Europe, where people are still installing DC fast chargers on isolated highways, where I just don't understand, and I think we have a lot of education to do here, why we just don't focus on installing chargers where you park. Destination charging can be AC and DC, and why would you go out of your way to stop at a highway? Maybe only on an emergency situation. I think it's relevant. The energy cost is definitely a factor. If I take a look at my own personal situation, where you where my energy bill at home used to be 120 euros per month. Now it's almost 400 euros per month. So we don't really see that trickle down yet through all the CPOs, but that will come, right? And then we have to basically protect this movement, that it doesn't become too expensive or unattractive. So smart charging is super important, things like peak shaving, et cetera, also to better understand the business case, mainly from an OpEx perspective, but I'll get into that later. Education, massive part of our business. There's still so many things that are unclear. If I am on a party, everybody always asks me what the range of an electric car is. Well, it's doable now. So, and yes, you can drive an electric car through the rain. Just an example of what the Flemish government is currently doing. They're really following basically what happened in Norway. And that's that we're moving from fixed energy prices and fixed grid connection costs to variable energy prices and capacity-driven grid connections. If you think about that, that means that basically a cup of coffee, if you brew that at 9 o'clock, it might be cheaper than if you would brew it at 10 o'clock. And then imagine that you will also have to be able to manage the peaks going forward, where from a fixed grid connection cost that is set on a monthly basis, you will be going through a process where the peak of what you're drawing out of the net, that is what you will be paying for. So if you don't manage those two things well, you will make the proposition of just plugging your car in on a massive basis, say the whole of Belgium or Flanders plugs in their car at 6 o'clock. You probably will be entering, you'll be starting charging at the most expensive time, and you will collectively create the most expensive or highest peak. So that will be very, very expensive if we do not implement systems to mitigate that. And Norway has already done this, and Flanders is starting on the 1st of January. So where we first were focusing on, hey, you have an electric car, oh great, we'll install a charger. Here's a charger, problem's fixed. Now we have to say, here's a charger, and you also need this, and that to mitigate what's going to happen with the energy tariffs all over Europe. Luckily, there are a lot of technologies out there. We have a lot of experience in the US, obviously, and in the US, this has already existed for a long time, but in different ways. So in order to tackle this, we need everybody, basically everybody to jump in. Everybody needs to help. This slide, everybody knows this slide, but I just wanted to make it clear that we cannot do this alone. We need grid companies, we need all the utilities, and to be successful especially in regions like in the US, where there are big land masses, we need those public-private collaborations. We can't do this alone. When I started out at Blink, I think a little over a year ago, we were predominantly in the US. We were with around 50 people. 1.5 years later, we're in 7 countries, 10 offices, and we're now 550 people. So we could and can only do that with partners, great partners, like location owners, but also fleet companies, governments, grid connection companies. Everybody has to work together to make this transition possible. One of those companies we're here, so we're happy to also announce that together with Hubject, we will integrate plug and charge in North America, and we will keep on working with Hubject through our other subsidiaries that we have already a long-lasting relationships with, like Blue Corner and EB Charging in the UK. Yeah, for me it was a great honor to speak to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you. Maybe also a shout out to Mariana for I know it's the end of the event, and I just told her that last year was the first time I was here, and one of the main things I remembered is how great she moderates everything.
Oh, that's very, very kind. Thank you. Well, as you probably know, so I've been moderating these conferences for many, many years, and I think it's just really nice that your last slide and your last thought was about the importance of collaboration, it's gone. It's okay. We'll remember. We still remember, and how to move in the direction where we all would like to go, we can't do it alone. That it takes collaboration across the entire value chain. All the stakeholders have to kind of support each other in different ways. And I think that's also, it was a theme of previous ICNC conferences a few years ago, but it's still true. Yeah. And I think it also, an event like this is really where it becomes very visible that people are here in different capacities, so they're involved in the EV ecosystem in very different ways, but they're really here to see how can we all pull the rope in the same direction of where we want to go.
Yeah, I'm old school. I think at the New Motion, at that time, it was impossible not to work together because we didn't have any money or anything else, so we had to do it together and keep on doing it like that.
Miko, as far as I understand, people are a bit shy, so as far as I know, we don't yet have any questions sent in from...
Maybe I answered everything already.
You already answered everything. I do have just a few that were sent ahead of time. So if we have about 5 minutes, maybe we can just look at these couple of questions. So we had a question of how does an owner or operator model improve the deployment and charging experiences?
Yeah, so owner-operators is very different from just being the CPO. As an owner-operator, you really want to put your brand on a network that really works and make sure that the opportunity there is that you could create a very high-quality network for the end user. Blink is not connected to any energy company, so that's also an advantage, I think, for our communities, that we can source local power or create sort of an energy freedom that we really like to offer to our customers, because in the end, the customer just wants to charge, but it also wants to choose how to charge. Does it answer the question? I don't know.
I just have one more question that was sent to us ahead of time, and that was, what role does energy management play in the EV infrastructure build-out?
Well, I touched upon it a little bit in our presentation, but I think especially in Europe, we're seeing sort of this migration from fixed energy rates on day rates and fixed grid connections per month to variable ones and flexible ones and ones that are based on peaks. That combined with, say, all the things that are going on around the energy space and gas pricing jumping, which are in many European countries pegged to the energy price, is sort of a perfect storm. If you do not have mitigating technology there, like peak shaving or smart charging, then the customer will be. It might be very expensive to charge your car, hurting the community, and the transition. And at the same time, it's also very difficult for CPOs to run somewhat of a healthy business model because of the changes that are happening simultaneously.
And just maybe in the last couple of minutes, just a question from me. You mentioned during your presentation that your own energy bills went from around 120 euros to more than 400.
Yeah.
And this is a reality that especially we in Europe are going to have to be grappling with in the coming months, and who knows, maybe years, maybe forever. How much do you think these spiraling energy costs are going to impact the EV ecosystem? Is it going to be like a severe blow, or are we going to find a way to keep going despite this, we can really call it an energy crisis?
Yeah, well, the energy crisis is there. I mean, that's for me sort of a given, but that doesn't mean that it should also have a huge impact on the EV space, because again, we can introduce mitigating tactics like delay of charge. But I'm somewhat of a person that's very much interested in the health of the planet. So if we want to keep snow on the mountains and not have the south of Europe burn every summer, we will have to do it, right? So there's no real alternative.
You heard it here. Miko de Haan, thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.